There we go, guys. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, no matter what time it is, wherever you are in the world, whenever this video has found you. Welcome and thanks for joining us. My name is Marissa Nystrom. I'm part of the community team here at Tongal, where we are on a mission to bring the world's creative work to the world's creative talent. Right now, you can get to work on any number of briefs on our website for clients like Warner Media, NASA, or even our own internal teams here at Tongal. So check out our open projects page and see what's new. Today, I am joined by three of my colleagues on Tongal's production team. We have Rebecca, Alex, and Stephen, better known as Iwanyk there on the bottom. And he already has a beer, it looks like.
This is a root beer, thank you very much.
Oh, okay. All right.
Zero sugar.
Nice. How y'all doing today?
Great. This is a beer, by the way.
So at least somebody has a beer. That's all that matters.
Alex is a giant bong just off screen.
Yeah, you can't see it. I actually should have got water. I did not do that, but it's okay.
You're going to be in trouble. Well, if at any point you need to run off to get some water, you can go ahead and do that. We'll, keep chatting without you. It's fine. Just don't take your laptop to the bathroom or anything.
Yeah,
that's never a good
no, thank you.
So yeah, for those of you, I see people are starting to join us on the live stream. We're streaming right now, both on Tongal's YouTube and Facebook pages. We're so happy to have you join us today. So if you're here, we'd love for you to say hi, let us know who we're chatting to. Or heck, even if you're watching this later down the line, you're not watching it live, we'd still love for you to say hey, just so we know who's in the audience. For the next hour or so, we're going to just be hanging out, taking any and all questions that you can throw at us. So please let us know what's on your mind and drop them in the comments. So today, the idea is that we are doing a producer open hour. We're chatting with some producers. We're going to see so there's really no format other than we just want to get to know Alex and Stephen and Rebecca a little bit more and what they do here at Tongal. So just to kick us off, what exactly does a producer do at Tongal? Anyone want to take that one?
We're the ones who, we put up the project, we run the project. So if you are on a Tongal project, we are working with you very closely. On the other side of that communication, we're also working with the clients and the sponsors to make sure that all of your brilliant ideas and creative work is meeting their needs.
Awesome. And I see we've got some people saying hello already. We have Tina in the audience, and we have, oh gosh, I'm going to screw this up, TUL. Sorry, excuse me for my probably terrible pronunciation on that. Cool.
German is difficult. It's got to be an umlaut in there.
Oh yeah. So where was I going?
What is a producer?
What is a producer?
The other thing I'd say that I always feel like is really helpful too is like we're sort of like the translators and the advocates, in the sense that when creative comes into us, we have a sense of like what the brand's vision is. And what we're looking at is sort of like all the possibilities that come in. And so we're trying to mine the possibilities for something that kind of like ladders up the brand's vision. But then we have to advocate for what we think is really cool, because we don't make the selection in the end, obviously. And we kind of need to translate, because without even realizing it, everyone who pitches kind of speaks a slightly different language. Not literally, although sometimes literally. But like everyone comes from a different background, from a different context, from a different setting, from a different state. They have different experience levels. And they all bring something to the table, and they're all trying to communicate a vision, but they all approach it in a very different way. Certainly, like, we'll probably get into this, like best practices and whatnot, but like, everyone has a different way of expressing their vision. And so it's kind of our job to figure out what everybody means, and then try to translate that to a brand that speaks its own sort of language. So it's a pretty unique challenge, because we're, not necessarily the people, putting together budgets and hanging out on set and hiring the, wardrobe, hair, makeup, and the grips and everything. So like, although we have that skill set, our challenges are a little bit different.
Very nicely put. And on average, how many projects would you say you're juggling at any given time? I know it's like you see for our community. I know it's like you see the open projects page. That's where all the public facing stuff is happening when it's currently open. But I know that if you dig a little deeper, there's always multiple projects at various stages of production at any given time. So what does that look like for you guys?
It really varies. I have one client right now who I think we have roughly 8 active projects at the moment. I have another client who, I have 2 active projects on at the moment, but the amount of work that we're doing on each kind of varies.
Yeah, I would say it kind of goes through waves. Like there'll be times when you have tons and tons of projects, and then there'll be a little bit less, and it's kind of like a rolling basis.
Completely.
Yeah. And even like an individual project, like it almost doesn't mean that much to say I'm on an individual project, because for some things, one of my TZGZ projects, we have 8 different filmmakers making different videos. And so I might have 15 active projects, but some of them might have multiple filmmakers. So all of a sudden you're talking to like 30 different filmmakers at the same time.
That's true. And I know each of you touch like different areas of our business in terms of like clients. So could you maybe let us know like which clients that you each work with and what kind of areas or specialties do you work within? Because I know everyone kind of has their own niches.
I can't say some of our clients yet.
Oh, that's always exciting. Sure. The ones you can say. Steven heads up a lot of our sci-fi stuff, so you'll see him on that.
Yeah, Sci-Fi USA, anything that's under like the NBC Universal brand. There's another big toy company that's got things coming down the line that's really exciting. UFC, Alex and I do UFC, which is awesome.
Yep. Which one of you guys would be the toughest fighter between the two of you if you both were in a UFC ring?
Alex.
Yeah, I think probably me.
Yeah, no, I might have a chance if I try to like talk her to death.
He's much taller than me, so he has like he's got the wingspan. Yeah.
Totally. And Rebecca, you're doing all those Warner Media projects right now. Those have been really exciting. Can you talk about some of those?
Those have been a lot of, so we've been doing a lot of very fun stuff for Warner Media. They really embraced kind of fan-submitted content right now, which is a lot of fun. It lets us be a little bit more creative, I think, than the typical branded piece of content, which is wonderful in its own right. But it's been really great to see how people are being creative at home, how they're involving their kids or their pets in that, and being able to share that back out to other fans. It's very authentic and it's a lot of fun to do.
Totally.
And Alex and I are both on Lululemon, so that's another very fun client in a very different way.
Totally. Yeah, it's been interesting to see. Somebody's food is here.
I feel like Mr. Rogers right now. I don't know who's ringing my doorbell.
The mailman coming in. We have a surprise guest, everyone. Awesome. I wanted to ask a little bit. That kind of brings up the point of how we've had to think about content now under these unusual circumstances where we're all working from home, social distancing and isolating and all that good stuff. How have your projects changed in these last 6 to 8 weeks? Anyone want to take that one?
Yeah, well, I think Lululemon's a really interesting example of that. We have been doing a lot of like at-home workout content with them because obviously a lot of people can't go to the gym right now, but still want to try and stay active and keep that going. So Lululemon kind of right away started figuring out, okay, how can we connect our ambassadors with Tongle to help, start making content even when people are stuck at home. And so that's been, I think, really, really successful in terms of, activating our editor community, kind of pairing ambassadors who had never made content before with Tongle to kind of figure out how that would work. And we've had a lot of fun doing it. So that's been a good one.
Yeah, there's also, I think, increasing creativity and how you can kind of bring things together. One format that we're seeing more of and that we'll continue to see more of is sort of like anthemic montage pieces where like I need this shot, this shot, this shot, and this shot, but I can't get a single crew to do all that right now. So I'm gonna find 5 crews, and this crew is gonna get this shot, and this crew is gonna get this shot, and this crew is gonna get this shot, because in that limited capacity, right? And even if this crew is just like somebody with a camera at home, it allows you to get a lot more footage. And it sort of also employs a lot more people. And one thing that it's complicated for us, but I think it's been really important that we're trying to do is we're trying to find projects to try and give as many opportunities as possible out to a lot of people, because obviously this impacts everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. I wanted to I was trying to share my screen. Oh, there we go. I did it. Some of that Lululemon content that you're talking about is now up on YouTube as well as their Instagram. So if you guys haven't checked it out, you can check it out on Lululemon, but it's also on our little Made on Tongal video section on our YouTube channel, if you want to find that. And then also, I see we've started to get some questions coming in. So let's take a look. I think, yeah, I did it. The question's up on screen. This is a new thing that I learned finally how to do.
It's a very impressive setup.
It's pretty
good. Yeah.
So Tool asks, is it beneficial to turn in a project early for feedback from the producers? Do most of the projects allow for edited versions of the submission based on the feedback? Rebecca, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. You know, we do have forums on every project where you can ask questions to help guide your pitch a little bit. I highly recommend using that. That's where we can kind of come back to you with some feedback, some helpful tips, which you can use to inform your pitch. So whether that's your treatment, your pitch video, what sample links you pull to show your relevant past work. If you have questions about any of that, or even just what the sponsor is looking for, we can answer that in the forum.
Yeah, I wish people took advantage of that more often, because I've noticed on projects where there's a lot of forum engagement, we tend to see better results, or just sort of like fewer misses, because sometimes people kind of don't quite get the ask, and throwing questions into the forum, even though they're not like, hey, what do you think of my idea, right? If you have a specific ask and you can throw it into the forum, it helps everybody. But more importantly, I think we get to be really transparent in how we address it, and it tends to help people. And I think we notice that too.
Thank you guys. And actually, there's one other question that I wanted you guys to get to from the same person. During the pitch phase, are there 1 to 2 things that get you shortlisted? I mean, sure, we would all love a fast track to, you know, getting that green light. I don't know that there's any 1 to 2 things. Oh, there we go. Well, we're not supposed to say it out loud, guys.
Yeah, it's oftentimes people include Bitcoin in their pitches. And so, yeah, I take those Bitcoin.
Yeah, there's not really, I mean, doing everything that you're supposed to do, including all the pieces, that's usually important.
I think a lot of the time, you know, oh, go ahead.
Addressing the executional mandatories, those are good things to help you get shortlisted. But yeah, go ahead, Rebecca, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, I think a lot of times it really comes down to, at least I see on a lot of my projects, the links to your past work, you know, showing that you either have done something similar, whether that's for a different client or sponsor, or whether, you know, whatever you're putting in your treatment is something that you have done before, or a style of filmmaking that you've done before. That's always really helpful. There is no one thing that will always get you shortlisted, or that will ever necessarily get you shortlisted, but definitely, you know, making sure that your pitch, like Marissa said, meets all of the executional mandatories. And then I think in my point of view, like making sure that your links really show what you're capable of is very helpful.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, because, you know, a lot of the times, particularly if we're looking for, you know, someone who wants to do social content and we ask specifically to see social examples, sometimes people will give us like long form videos and these really cinematic things that aren't necessarily like true social driven pieces. So the more relevant you can get your links to your past work to be, I think the better that is for your pitch.
And I think that kind of begs a question too. It's like, what if I want to do Y, but I've only ever done X, right? How can I get that job? And people obviously do it all the time. And I think the other thing that's really helpful in getting shortlisted is having a really clear vision, because a lot of the people that you're pitching to are creatives, right? We're used to seeing all sorts of things. Like I said before, like we're kind of translators, right? So you could be really vague and I can still see the possibilities. But a lot of people you're pitching to aren't necessarily creatives. You know, if it's a brand, they're maybe marketers or brand execs or sales execs. And so the clearer you can be in expressing your vision to someone, or the possibilities in your vision, the better a chance you'll be, because you're not relying on someone's imagination or the associations they have to try and interpret what it is you're trying to do. They see that pitch and they're like, oh yeah, I get it. It's awesome. And a corollary to that would probably be, if your past work doesn't include work that's sort of relevant to what you're trying to get, what you can do is you can put together a pitch video or a really clear treatment that shows how you're going to execute what you're talking about. So if I've never done episodic recap for a TV show before, I can go on YouTube, I can get a TV show, and I can edit it down into a recap. And then I can make that a pitch video. It's then really clear, if I'm reviewing that pitch, that you can do the job. Even if your past work doesn't include anything like it, you've done it. You know, with the social example, if you've never done a social video before, you could just take one of your existing videos or some other existing video on YouTube and turn it into a social video. And then all of a sudden, we know you can do it.
Nice.
Yeah, I think the pitch video is something that often gets overlooked, because let's be honest, like it is a little bit of extra work to film a pitch video, but it really does help kind of, you know, for us to get a sense of who you are, what you're capable of, especially if, like Steven said, you know, maybe you've never done something like that project that you're pitching to before. That's fine. You know, we don't want to only get people who have done this 1,000 times. We want to see everybody come out for these projects. So using the pitch video as a way to kind of talk through your vision, your execution, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your approach to things can be really helpful.
Cool. Thanks, guys, for answering that question. I actually have a question for our audience members. I'm curious to know what kind of projects are exciting you, what your background is with filmmaking or animating or producing. Let us know the kind of projects that you like to see on Tongal or that you get excited about, because we'd love to hear about that. And then, of course, if you have any other questions for us, we are here to answer them. So throwing it back to our producers, Alex, do you have a favorite Tongal video of all time by any chance?
Favorite video of all time? I would probably have to say my very first project that I started working on at Tongal was our Rescue Heroes series that we did, the animated series. So I have a very soft spot in my heart for those.
Mm-hmm.
The first ones that I actually got to work on like the script for was like episode 13, which is really cute, and it's on YouTube and everyone should check it out. So I would have to say Rescue Heroes. That's a lot of fond memories back to my first days at Tongal.
Nice. And Rebecca, what's your favorite video of all time?
I knew you were going to ask me this, and honestly, I mean, I've been at Tongal for, I think, just about 5 years at this point, so that's a lot of videos. One of my favorites is one that we are holding on releasing right now, but when it comes out, it's going to be great. It's for an airline, and it was a lot of fun to film. I think some of the stuff that we've been doing lately with Lululemon, I know you kind of showed where those are on YouTube. Some of those ones with Rob especially are a lot of fun.
Oh, what especially about the Rob ones are great? He does like the workout for runners. Is that
yeah? So for context, Rob is a like marathon and long distance runner. He's a Lululemon ambassador, and he's one of the ambassadors who's in this kind of new format of project that Alex was talking about before. It's just a really good example of what, you know, content shot at home can look and feel like. You know, he's filming this himself. His personality comes through. It edits together in a really fun way. So even if you are not a runner and have no interest in being a runner, the workout is still a lot of fun, and you get a lot of personality out of it, which I think is, you know, not something you always get with that kind of content. And we're seeing it a lot in all of those videos.
That's awesome. Yeah. I've really enjoyed the series. Like, I think it's really cool how quickly, you know, we were able to work with Lululemon to pivot and like do this and get it out so quickly. And that their ambassadors seem like pretty game to do it. I'm sure it's varying levels of everyone's like learning all the technology and doing things outside of their normal scope. So it's like really interesting to see that happen in real time too. And now, of course, I have to ask, put Steven on the spot and zoom in and ask him what his favorite video of all time.
I was debating. There's a self-serving answer, there's a sentimental answer, and there's a ridiculous answer. Sentimental answer is I have a documentary right now that we're almost done with, which I think will be the thing that I'm most proud of. But that's not that interesting. There's a sentimental answer that's a video I made for Similac like a couple years ago that was like celebrating moms, and we like filmed, you know, like a woman and like a birth scene like at 6 days after she actually gave birth to her baby, because we're not filming the birth scene. And like it made my mom cry, and oh god, it was like so awesome. The brand cried, it was so cool. But maybe my actual favorite is we made a Trojan spot like 3-4 years ago, where each condom was represented as a different candidate on a debate stage, trying to make the case for why they should be erected. It was a
simpler time.
It was so stupid and so funny. But the best part was it came out 2 days after Donald Trump literally compared the size of his hands to the size of on a debate stage, and we're like, oh, this is the best timing ever for this video.
It's called Kismet.
It really was Kismet. It was awesome. The response was great.
Nice. So I also I'm curious. I mean, I already know these questions and answers kind of, but I have to pretend that I'm interviewing you guys for the first time. Just to kind of get a little bit more sense of like what you know, producers at Tongal, like what their backgrounds are. I know everyone kind of comes from like their own point of view, and we are really good, I think, about hiring people that have a different skill sets and point of views and backgrounds. So, Steven, let's kick it off with you, since I think you're probably the most tenured of all the producers. You started how long ago, and what were you doing? What was your background before coming on?
Started shortly before Rebecca, so just about 5 years ago. I was in sort of traditional entertainment before this. I started working as a PA on The Wire for HBO back in Baltimore. So I spent a lot of time on set, and then I came out to LA. I worked at the Creative Artists Agency for about 3 years, you know, basically, you know, doing the whole like Ari Gold entourage shenanigans as an assistant. And then worked for another evil producer for a couple of years. And then the brunt of my career, I was managing TV writers and directors. So basically looking for talent, developing talent, and trying to see the potential in cool properties, cool ideas, and cool creators. When I was trying to do more stuff in the digital space, I met at this company called Tunngle because I thought I was going to sell them something. Didn't really know what Tongal was or how I operated. And it turned into a really long meeting that was
ended with awesome. A job offer.
Yeah, I was like, "Where's your Kool-Aid? I'll drink your Kool-Aid," and here I am.
Yeah. And Rebecca, do you remember where you were when you drank the Kool-Aid?
So my story is kind of funny. I started at Tongal, I think like a month after Steven. I heard about Tongal actually, Marissa, because your husband and my husband were doing Tongal projects on the filmmaker side. So I already knew about him, and I thought it was a very, very cool platform and a great way of kind of democratizing premium content across filmmakers all around the world. Prior to Tongal, I had worked in the digital media space in a few different capacities, most notably at YouTube. I was at YouTube for about 2.5-ish years, and actually moved out to LA as part of the YouTube team to open the YouTube Space, which was a studio space for YouTube creators to kind of democratize the creation of content and elevate content created for YouTube. There are now YouTube spaces all across the world, which is pretty cool. I got to YouTube because
didn't you get to help open one in one of the foreign? Did you get to go to one of the foreign cities when they were opening it, or work on any of those?
London and Tokyo.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
So yeah, London I kind of helped open because we did a massive Olympics program there in 2012, where I brought 40 top YouTubers to London to cover the Olympics. I was in London for 6 weeks. I didn't see much of London. I was mostly in a studio the whole time, but it was still a lot of fun. Highlight of that trip was I got to take everyone in the program to the Women's Gold Cup soccer match. So it was USA versus Japan.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
That was really dope.
That was a good game, right?
Great game. Also, British stadiums serve Pimm's Cup. So that's also quite fun.
Heck yeah, they do.
Something American stadiums should do. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun at YouTube, and I learned a lot there, helping YouTube creators who were really good at having an audience and creating content for that audience kind of branch out and become better in general, just like savvier live action content creators. Before that, my background is I did my own digital content. I'm actually the first YouTube channel to get a book deal.
Oh, my cat is photobombing. Sorry, guys. Yeah, Tila. Sorry.
And prior to that, I worked in live action, a lot of documentary kind of content.
Totally. Yeah, that's true. Like, you definitely come from a creator background. You went, did the film school stuff, and did the YouTube, the grind of putting out, content every week or every.
It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
she's a little bit of a celebrity. Yeah.
Warmer.
I love it. Like, how often were you guys putting out working class foodies back in the day? Was like every week or?
Yeah, so we did an episode every week. So for context, it was a YouTube cooking show basically, and we would do an episode every week. But that meant that we would shoot it. We would script it out. We would recipe test. We would film. I would edit. Then we would have to upload every single week for like 3 years. And at the same time, also at the end of it, moving out to LA and working at YouTube and writing
a book.
Yeah.
Somehow you did that.
Oh, man, I don't think I slept for like a year. So I learned a lot doing all of that. And it was great to be able to kind of bring that to Tongal and take like what I know about live action production, what I know about documentary production, what I know about digital production, and what I learned at YouTube, helping other YouTube creators elevate their channels and basically turn that into branded content.
Very good. And now, Alex, I think you also come from a more traditional background.
I do, yeah. I also started in entertainment, like Steve. I didn't go down the agency route. I started at a studio, working in like development and production. I've worked for a couple of producers, so lots of reading scripts and everything that goes with that. And for me, like, I just love telling stories. Like, that's my favorite thing. And kind of as I was working in entertainment, I had a growing interest in the branded side of things. And I had also kind of heard about Tongal before I ever applied for a job there, because I actually worked with Steve's wife in entertainment. And so I had heard a lot about Steve. I heard his name all the time. And then when, kind of a job positioning opened up at Tongal, I was like, oh, that could be kind of interesting. And I applied, and it was great. I finally got to meet Steve. That was the highlight of my interview.
And you're like, oh, no.
Spouses, man, they're working out really well for us.
Yeah, that's how we find everybody.
What was your first impression? I guess did you meet each other during the interview process? I assume.
Yeah, it was the very first time I met him. Actually, it was. We have a very long interview process at Tongal. It's sort of like a super day where you come in and kind of meet everyone. And so I got to meet Rebecca and Steve at the same time, and Rebecca's dog Humphrey. You can see behind her, kind of.
Kind of.
Yes, just a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, no, I loved meeting them. It was great. It was everything I hoped it was going to be.
I'd heard legends of Alex for years.
And likewise with Steve.
And then just to kind of, we don't have to all talk about work and all that stuff. Like, how's your guys' homes been? How's your quarantine been going? Have you picked up any new hobbies or activities? I feel like everyone's like either a bird watcher now or they're composting, they're doing like pressing flowers into books. I read that in the New York Times. People are apparently doing. I don't know. What are y'all doing?
We're like building a home gym in our driveway.
Amazing.
Got some, like, gym mat flooring. I think we're gonna get like a heavy bag, like a stand for the heavy bag, and we're trying to get a Peloton. I don't know.
Right, you can't go to the gym anymore. You got to make your own gym.
Can't go to the gym. Yeah.
Alex, any new hobbies?
I've been getting really into masterclass. They were running like a very good deal a couple weeks ago, which I think is still going. And this just turned into an ad for masterclass apparently. But no, it's really, I've been loving it. I just kind of get to do a different class every day, and currently doing the Aaron Sorkin screenwriting one. And yeah, I'm loving it.
That's awesome. Yeah. How are they? I haven't used one. I know we've given them out as prizes before, though, and done some giveaways in the past and worked with masterclass. And it seems like a really cool.
Yeah, they're really cool. It's like I have like 50 of them bookmarked that I'm trying to get through, but there's everything from like, there's one that just came out about gardening that I'm like particularly excited about.
Oh, I think I think Maddie at our company, she's going through that one right now, actually.
Yeah, I've heard very good things. So I'm going to start that this weekend probably. But it's like everything from that to like interior design to wine to cooking. And yeah, it's just like anything I'm in the mood for, they have it, which is perfect. Masterclass. Everyone should subscribe.
Please sponsor us, Masterclass. Exactly. And Stephen, how are you keeping busy when you're not producing a million projects?
Up until 9:45 last night, my wife and I were doing a 2,000-piece puzzle.
Ooh!
And then we were out in the backyard watching Jason and the Argonauts on my cool projector screen. We heard a crash inside. We ran into the kitchen and discovered that our cats knocked the entire puzzle off the table. It was 4/5 done, maybe more. And somebody decided to jump up on the kitchen table, and it's all on the floor.
Oh, no. Yeah, I haven't done here she comes again. I haven't done a puzzle in years because my cats also will just immediately knock everything off the table. And my dream is to someday have like an extra room that I can close the door and actually do a puzzle in someday. It's like so sad. That's just my dream. I had to have enough space to do that in. Actually, a couple of years ago, I brought in my massive puzzle that I had that I've been wanting to do. I brought it into Tongal because we have like such great tables. I was like, in my mind, I was like, I'll just like do this like in between, like on my lunch break. I'll do it, whenever, and finally I'll get it done. And then it's like, there's no time, you guys. We eat during our lunch breaks. We're all busy, so. Looks like we have another question come in from Alberto, our friend Alberto Merida. Following the other question, are there 1 to 2 things to not do in the pitch, things that people should be avoiding?
I guess I can jump in. Well, Rebecca, you were leaning in because you got something?
You go first.
It's hard to make a general statement like these are 1 to 2 things you shouldn't do in a pitch.
You're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Am I better now? I'm breaking up?
Yeah, I think you're breaking up.
Oh, no.
Rebecca, do you want to take it?
Yeah, I mean, like Stephen was saying, it's hard to make general statements about what not to do. I mean, basic common sense. Don't insult the sponsor. Don't insult Tunngle. Don't insult other filmmakers. Make sure that you are following the executional mandatories. If a pitch or if a project says, include X, Y, and Z, or do not include X, Y, and Z, either do or don't include that. Like, don't think that, you're going to come up with something that is going to be so amazing that the brand is going to change their entire minds about their campaign, because that's not going to happen. And even if it was something that they loved, it's just not possible to change gears like that. But I think, it's really just make sure that your creative vision is coming across clearly is the best thing you can do. I don't know. Alex, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of some of the common sense things that Rebecca brought up. Definitely look at the executional mandatories. When we say we can't give like a general 1 to 2 things to do, if there are 1 to 2 things specifically for that project not to do, we will lay them out in the executional mandatory section. But I think it's also some of the other basics too, like make sure everything uploaded properly. Because sometimes, we'll get a treatment in and it'll be one page and the rest of it's blank. And we can't really put that in front of a client. And likewise with spell checking and going through and just making sure and doing a quick pass. So that way, like if we're putting something, in front of a client, it's something that you can be proud of and we can be proud of. And that's really what we're looking for.
That's a good point too. I think maybe probably a lot of people, especially if they're newer to Tongal, they don't know that you can actually to check your submissions on your submissions in your profile, the submissions page on your profile. You can edit it up until, the final deadline for that project, for that phase. So if you submitted a pitch, oh my gosh, this cat, I'm sorry, guys. You can still edit it up until that final moment. So if, you did want to check, did everything go through? You can go to that submissions page and check on that and also make those changes until the last second. So that's always an option for you.
For live action stuff, one thing that I don't think is terribly valuable is when you include a lot of information about like your camera package and the whole team you've assembled. The pitch, and this is again like kind of subjective, has to be like as relevant as possible. Because somebody's going to look at like 30 pitches, right? However many they're going to be diving into, however much time they're going to spend, it's a lot. And so, talking about your grip or your DP or something is valuable if it adds to the creative.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's really straightforward, it kind of doesn't matter. If you're doing stop motion, it kind of doesn't really matter, right? The stop motion is really with the appeal of your video. And as long as you can execute stop motion well, awesome. So it's a nuanced question, but it's one that I see a lot of people spend a lot of time on. And sometimes in treatments, it's like 6 pages before I finally get to like, what's the creative? And you can skip over a lot of that. I would also kind of like get rid of tables of contents and like section pages and title pages and whatnot, and just kind of dive in.
I think that's a good place to also mention that we actually have a template for your treatments. So if you are new to Tongal, definitely, or even if you're not, definitely recommend checking that out because it will kind of guide you through what to include in your treatment, and you can follow that template pretty easily.
Yeah, that's a good point. We try to make it a little bit more obvious for you with that. So that is a good tool, and it's always nice when we see people using it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And then I'm curious if there are any projects coming up that we can tease to the people watching. Is there anything exciting coming up that we can maybe have people look forward to? I know there's a bunch launching next week, it looks like. So, and this week was a little bit quiet on our site. Are you guys having things launching next week, or just in general? Or do you have anything launching next week?
I do, but it's currently confidential, so I can't talk too much about it yet.
Is it live action? Is it animation?
TBD. Both. I'm not.
Stay tuned.
There's a lot that I'm still. Yeah, stay tuned.
We're like, we have no idea. We're still trying to figure it out with the client. Sometimes that's how it goes.
Nice. I got at least 1, maybe 2 projects launching next week. They skew into the live action direction and kind of fall along the lines of like the UGC stuff we've launched recently, but also I mentioned the like Little Tykes thing where you get a bunch of filmmakers to film a couple scenes. There's a couple things we're talking about like that, and one hopefully would launch next week. But yeah, I guess we can't really talk about or tease anything too much.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I figured I'd ask anyway. We have a question here from Jacob. Will there be more mid-scale projects in the future? Talking about like the budget. So I know right now is an unusual time for us for the kind of projects that we're launching and the content we're producing. So we have like had a different, pricing structure for these projects. So maybe you guys can speak to how that's changed in the last couple of weeks, and if I know we definitely have like our budgets like very run the gamut depending on the ask. But when anyone want to take that question?
Yeah, I guess it's probably a good segue into sort of like a general COVID conversation. Part of the when people think about how to make anything right now, really, that's live action, there are a lot of like obvious complications. Like I can't leave my house. Obviously, that's difficult. But there are a lot of logistical considerations that everyone is still trying to figure out, and a lot of them aren't super obvious. So, like, for example, one thing that a lot of companies in the business are talking about is the idea of like mandating an infection control officer or an infection control manager on every live action production. That means added complications, slows down production, added cost. And people are still trying to figure out how to do a lot of that. The other problem is that you don't think about too is like, let's say I'm able to shoot in my state. If you're going to shoot in a coffee shop, for example, coffee shops have been hit hard because they've been closed. So the chances that people are going to be able to get favor rates to get that local coffee shop where they can film at are a little bit lower. Even if you're able to film at that coffee shop, now it's more likely than not that you're going to have to disinfect and clean out every single thing you touch, which is going to add a lot of time to production. Take away from maybe you were able to do 2 different locations in a day, and now, because you have to keep everyone away from each other and you have to clean and disinfect everything, you can only get 1 location in a day. Part of what's keeping a lot of the medium and larger budget projects from being really active right now, apart from the obvious restrictions, is because there's a lot logistically that we have to figure out. And it's not just Tongal has to figure out, everybody has to figure it out. There's no clear direction, and every production is super, super different. So it's even hard to generalize, right? Like, since Tongal is a global platform, we could say this is the way to do it, but like you're off in some other country and you're like, I have no problems here. I can do whatever I want. But we can't know that when we launch the project. So we have to accommodate for the broadest swath of things. And it's getting in the way of basically every live action film production. So it's not that we're not trying. It's not that there aren't a lot of things on deck that have been pushed or that are on hold. It's just that right now it's difficult for everyone to really execute that. And a lot of the things that you're seeing that are lower budget are really limited. Because if you think about it from a like a cost standpoint, if we're asking for somebody to film some like scenes cooking lunch in their kitchen, since they can't get a crew, it's just them, their wife, their child, and a camera. The cost is a lot lower.
Cool. Thanks for answering that. Great, guys. So let's see, what else do we have on our mind today? Any other? Let me put this up too. Cool. And then can you guys, I'm curious to know, I know we've had some really interesting productions, some really interesting shoots in the past. I know we've already talked about your favorite video, but are there any like particular productions that you can recall being especially memorable, like any memorable moments? I know for Steven, you got to go out to the desert with Chase a Cloud at some point to shoot for their Nat Geo Explorers series a couple years back. That was certainly a memorable time, I believe. But anyone else have any other like really great memorable moments from set? Even maybe like Rebecca, speak about the Japan Airlines.
Yeah, that was a very fun shoot. I'm hoping that spot can come out in the relative near future. Obviously, airline ads are a little on hold right now. That was a great shoot because, we got to have a lot of fun with it. We shot up at Air Hollywood, where there are actual like full plane sets. A lot of famous movies have been shot there on those plane sets. And the Japan Airlines business class cabin is a very unique cabin. So they didn't already have a set for that. So part of the project, we built that set. So now Air Hollywood has Japan Airlines business class cabin set because we built it to make our commercial look as real as possible.
You're welcome, everyone else that'll ever use it.
We also, as part of that project, had to get a Japan Airlines business class seat shipped to us. It's kind of crazy. This thing goes all around the world because it's a lot easier to make an open-ended airplane set than it is to shoot on an actual airplane, even a business class airplane. Still kind of a small space. And then for maximum authenticity, because Japan Airlines takes so much pride in their business class amenities and service, instead of just having an actor play our flight attendant, they actually have a flight attendant actor that they use for everything. And so she came from Japan for like 24 hours just to film our commercial. And on top of that, we got to have a lot of fun. We built out an office. There's a lot of fun stuff going on in that spot. It was really great to see what is kind of a large, older brand come to us wanting to do something playful and being able to actually do that, do something a little bit different, do something a little bit more fun, do something a little unexpected. Hopefully that will come out soon.
I know. I'm so excited for that too. Well, someday we'll get to travel again. Mm-hmm. Where's the first place you guys are going to travel to the moment that we are actually able to go anywhere? And imagining that we don't have all the restrictions and stuff that are still surely to be, in place. But
wherever I can get the first flight to.
Are you guys getting like all the alerts? Like I'm getting all those alerts now where it's like, it's $50 to fly somewhere. And you're like, oh no, don't show me that.
Your flight to Morocco is only $350.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. I'm supposed to officiate my little sister's wedding in October.
Oh, that probably will happen. Where's that happening?
That's supposed to be in Jersey. And then I have another wedding the weekend after it. So I might just stay on the East Coast for a while. But like they're both meaningful weddings for me. So really hoping.
Nice. All right. Anyone else want to jump in? I feel like we're getting close to the end here. So if you guys are cool, I think we can start winding it down.
I can jump into Jacob's other question.
Yeah, you gonna go for it?
Yeah, it's something that comes up frequently. People talk about like why there aren't giant $1.5 million commercial spots. And it feels like there's a race to the bottom. This is like a broad industry-wide discussion, I think, not just necessarily about Tongal, because we have, we're doing big documentaries and broadcast spots that have bigger budgets and everything, but the environment that we're in is sort of what's driving this, and part of it is that whereas in the past, and I know this might seem obvious to Jacob. Jacob feels like he's, on some of these things, but I'll cover it for anyone else. In the past, historically, you could make like one spot, right? And it would be your thing for the year, right? Especially if you go back to like the golden age of advertising and be like, this is the Coca-Cola commercial. But part of the difficulty that we're all trying to adjust to right now is that if you're a brand or you're a content maker and you have a presence online, the only way that people pay attention to you is if you constantly put out content. Just think about how annoyed you are if you see the same commercial like 4 times. It sucks. A consequence of that, of needing so much content, is that it becomes so much less frequent that brands can put a lot of money and resources into individual pieces of content. So now, rather than looking for that big broadcast spot, maybe a bunch of cut downs and some things that you can pull away from it. Now you need like 30 different videos. And so it creates a lot of complications, no question. And the way the industry as a whole has sort of tried to evolve to meet that demand is by providing more and more opportunities. So I know it's not like a one-to-one comparison. Like all of us would rather make like one big spot, a nice big payday, and kind of, move on to the next thing. But now that everyone needs so much content, the margins are lower, the budgets are a little bit lower, but there's so much more content being made that the hope, and this is industry-wide, this isn't really just about a Tongal thing, is that those the amount of opportunities sort of balances out the fact that there are fewer of those single big opportunities. But also Tongal too is because we're a global creative platform, we're inherently as a business model set up to scale well, right? I mentioned at the top of this thing that I have certain projects where I'm working with like 8 different filmmakers at the same time. In the past, if you wanted to do 8 videos, you might find one filmmaker to do 8 videos consecutively. But with something like Tongal, you can launch a project to get those 8 videos and have 8 filmmakers working on them separately at the same time. So you move faster, which you need to do in a digital landscape. You're more efficient because you can pay all those people to work at the same time, and you sort of scale up. So, I think just as much as you, I'd love to have tons of big, expensive, awesome projects. And oftentimes our open bid projects do allow for more of that. But part of it is just sort of the nature of content. We're even seeing a lot more editing projects and motion graphic animation projects where rather even than creating new content, brands are just like, this is what I have in the past. Let's just repackage it and put it back out because they just need such a high volume of content.
Thank you. That was a very nice answer, Stephen. I thought you answered it thoroughly as always.
I told you these things like a half hour. I talk a lot. I'm sorry.
I know. I was really being optimistic when I was like, maybe we'll be done early at 1:45. All right, guys. I think it's about that time. Thank you guys for tuning in. Everyone who watched today. If you learned something new, if you had a good time, go ahead and give us a like. And of course, to my producer friends, Alex, Rebecca, and Steve, thank you so much for sharing your afternoon with us on a Friday. And if you enjoyed this stream, you're in luck because Stephen's actually going to be back next Wednesday, May 6th, for a session of Pitch Feedback Live.
Oh, yeah.
Which will be, I know, are you ready for that? No. Where we'll be
stayed right here.
Yeah, this whole time. That's right. Just a couple days. That'll be fun. So yeah, that's coming up next Wednesday where we'll definitely get into all of that good pitch feedback. We're going to be pulling some actual real examples from our communities, past pitches. They are bravely and gamely volunteering to have their work critiqued live on air, but it'll all be constructive and I think it's going to be a really good educational moment for all of us. And remember to keep your eye out for more community live streams. All of our information about all the upcoming live streams are linked in the description of this video. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.